like this little dirty little bass line.
I don't fucking care. Can we move on to a new segment, please?
Welcome to Just Two Fans, a sports show about sports,
Obviously.
about life,
Because sports are life.
and about just whatever the hell we feel like talking about. So, let's go.
What is up, everybody?
Sup, dudes?
I'm Jamie Friedlander. That's Eli Johnson. And we are the Just Two Fans podcast.
Yeah, that's me, guys. Just, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a criminal now.
You're a criminal?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, kind of criminal. I had the police show up to my house twice yesterday.
Oh, shit. What'd you do?
Like, to my front door. Apparently, I was beating my girlfriend.
oh,
Which
that's pretty
two
serious
problems.
accusation.
Two problems here is one, I was sleeping. It was because one was at 12:30 and the other was at 1:30. Both calls. And second thing is girls don't like me. So there's no girl in my house. Okay. So I'm like
those are pretty significant.
problems in
with
their
the
in their
accusation.
logic here.
Yeah.
But I was in bed, and at 12:30 I hear a knock at my door, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" So I actually grabbed my piece out of my drawer because I was like, "Who's at my door right now?" Right? It's 12:30 in the morning, and I walked up to the front door. And I look outside, and there's another knock really hard, and I look, and there's fucking 5 cops outside of my door, and my adrenaline's just flowing, and so I put the thing over to the side, right?
Yep.
And then I opened the door. I was like, "Can I help you guys?" And they were like, "Yeah." So we got a call from a concerned neighbor that sounded like there were people tussling in here and fighting. They said it sounded like it came from this apartment. I was like, what? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense because I am by myself. And they're like, really? Because they said it sounded pretty intense. And I was like, I literally was laying in bed watching TikTok. And I was like, I've just been laying in bed watching TikTok and then I fell asleep. I have no idea. And they're like, well, did you hear anything? I'm like, after TikTok, I fell asleep, and then you guys woke me up with the door knock. And they're like, okay, so cool. Well, you're fine then. We'll just try to figure out where it might have actually come from, and yada yada. And I was like, cool, man. I'm just gonna go back to bed. So I go back and I lay in bed, but I can't fall asleep because obviously my adrenaline's rushing because the cops just showed up at my door at 12:30.
Yep.
And then I get another knock at the door at 1:30. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And so I get up and I go to the door again. Same fucking guys. There was only 3 cops this time. And they're like, we got another call about fighting noises coming from this apartment. And I was like, do you guys want to come in and see that I am fucking a lonely ass dude? What do you want from me here? And they're like, yeah, sure. We just got to make sure, I guess, you're not harming somebody in here. And I was like, cool, man. Come on in. And, they went, they fucking opened my closet. And they were like, yeah, nobody's here. And I was like, I fucking told you guys. Now, can I go back to sleep? And then I couldn't get back to sleep till 3 a.m. So I'm a tired boy today.
Yeah, I bet. That's pretty intense.
It was a pretty intense night. And I'm a criminal. Yeah, I guess I'm a big bad criminal. So if you're watching this, you are accessories.
I don't think that's how it works.
I don't know laws.
So I'm assuming because they came back a second time, you didn't answer the door the first time shirtless. Because then they'd be like, nah, no chance of girls in here.
Yeah, no. Well, here's the thing. Cameron, is that while you are correct,
That's pretty good.
I also don't believe that a shirt hides the fact that women don't like me. You know, I
No,
think
no
the difference.
shirt.
There's no difference between me with a shirt on and off, in which there's going to be like, there's no transition period of being like, this guy fucks, to this guy doesn't fuck, and that transition is not my shirt, is what I'm saying.
know,
That's,
all right.
that's fair.
But then they would have seen the sweater you had on under your shirt, and that might have confirmed it.
They would have been like, sir, why do you have a sweater on? It is 90 degrees
In August.
in August. What are you
They'd
doing?
be like, sir, can you come to the door? Your Sasquatch answered it.
And I'd be like, "Boo." That was a bad joke. I'm sorry. Forgive me, viewers, because that was a bad joke. This is off to a great start today, guys. I am. We're feeling it over here.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, man. It was a fun night, and then I had to go work today. I almost called out because I was so tired. Then I went and worked, and then I was really busy.
But now we get to talk about the best thing in the world.
It's the only thing that's been getting me through today. Truly.
Yep.
What is that?
I believe you.
Would you like to tell the listener? There's a little theme going on in my room.
The little theme. Yes, we're going to do our Oregon and Oregon State preview today.
Fuck yeah. Dude, we are 2
We're-
weeks. 2 weeks.
We are
Sorry,
9
from
days-
duck football.
8 days away from college football returning.
I can only get so erect.
But yes, we are
Is it-
2 weeks away.
Does it
from,
still count as a fear boner if it happened last night?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of
Yeah.
two common side effects when you get an adrenaline dump. Either you get really cold sweats or just rock hard.
Fear boner. And then if it carries over to the next
You got to
day
see your
when
doctor. You got to see your doctor.
enjoy for Oregon
Yeah.
football.
Yeah, that's an erection lasting more than 4 hours. You need to see your doctor.
Yeah, but it's justified.
So is the blue pill one, but you still got to call somebody.
Well, no, the blue pill one is a medical boner. This is not medical. This is just fear
This is
followed by
psychological.
just unyielding joy. So
So you're telling me you went fear boner to anticiperection for tonight?
yes, that's exactly what it was.
All right,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
I follow.
Man, Cameron's bringing the heat today.
Cameron's
It's a good time to introduce Cameron Hunting as our man behind the
Producer.
glass, our super producer.
super producer Cameron, man behind the glass. Say hey, Cameron.
Hey, Cameron.
Cool. I'm glad you picked up what I was putting down there.
I wish I was a radio show and I had a mute button.
Yeah, as we just mute
Hey,
you all the
Cameron.
time.
Okay, mute.
Hey, Cameron. Bye, Cameron.
I'm kidding. I really enjoyed that interaction. It was great.
Did you?
I did.
You enjoyed talking about my
I
fear
don't-
fear
no.
boner and
That's where I
anticiperection?
stopped. That's when I'm trying to move us along in the college football direction.
I would be okay with that. But first, I think we have to talk about some like other things first.
There's several
You were
things that I want
very
to talk about.
cryptic earlier in pre-show about.
There are
these
several things I want to talk about. I have 3 topics I want to talk about. Then we're going to get into some realignment stuff because obviously that's gone even crazier since the last time we recorded. So we need to touch on that. And then we'll get into our Oregon and Oregon State previews. But I want to start with a couple big stories this week. One of them I want to get your opinion on because you've been very critical of this from the time that it began. And this was the Michael Orr claims against the Tuohys.
Oh, dude, I feel so fucking vindicated. I've said this movie was garbage and bullshit from the get.
Yep,
From
you
the
have.
get, I was like, this is white savior bullshit. And so I'm like,
100% you have done that.
I am so vindicated by everything that's been coming out. And it's even worse than I thought it was. Right? Because I was like, I thought they adopted him, but like I was like, the kid, he was a 5-star recruit in high
Yeah.
school when they adopted him. He was already a 5-star recruit. Like it wasn't like he was sleeping on fucking grass in like a hut. He was like, I've never seen a bed before. Get fucked, movie.
I mean, everybody knew that the movie was Hollywood, right? Like it was way It was not
Yeah.
an accurate depiction of what happened. I think that was pretty clear from the get-go. I don't think I mean, there were parts of it that I was like, this kind of feels gross.
I mean, it all feels gross to me.
But now it really feels gross.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really critical about the white lady saves black kid, white rich lady saves black kid from poverty and gets him to the NFL based on her will alone. Like, again, he was a 5-star recruit, and like they're like, she taught him how to play football and like block the blind side. It's like, no, this kid was going to the NFL regardless. Basically, they just tricked him into giving all their money, giving him all the money. He's giving them all the money he's gonna earn.
Yep.
And then steered him to like Ole Miss. Like, this should be a recruiting violation at this point, man. Because like they're boosters. Like, they basically just like, yeah, here's the money, man. Like,
oh, 100%. This is
fuck those people.
this just
fuck the Tooies.
Yep,
Fuck
100%.
them.
And then to like frame it as an adoption, but it's a conservatorship, like that's
so fucked up, dude.
That is so fucked.
It's so and he didn't make a cent off the movie. They made all the money, and their fucking kids made the money off the movie. But Michael Orr, the whole subject, didn't make a cent. It's so fucked,
that
dude.
sucks.
I am so glad
That
that garbage fucking sports movie, that piece of shit movie in general, is getting the hate it finally deserves. I am so happy. Oh
yeah,
I'm so glad that happened.
You have been on that since day one.
The day I watched that movie, I was like, this is trash.
I saw a TikTok from the actor that played the little kid. And he was like, no one come for me. I didn't get anything from Michael Orr. And then someone like shared it and was like, nah, this motherfucker got all the money. We know. Look at those teeth. They're perfect now.
We know. That's funny. All right. The next story I wanted to touch on came out today that Sabrina Ionescu, Duck legend, had 2 pairs of shoes, and these were not just your average pairs of shoes. They were stolen from an opposing arena. It was her, which pairs? These were special sets of Nikes that the Oregon basketball team got. It was the Thanks Uncle Phil pair and the Quack Attack pair, or Quack something pair.
Unfortunate.
And so I think Torsten is the one that tweeted this to us or sent it to us in something. I think this is worthy of a death penalty. Whoever gets caught with these.
Kill. Dude. Yeah, just dead.
You're done. Never
You're
thought
done.
my shoes would be stolen from an opposing arena. Please just bring my insoles back.
She's so fucking cool.
She's amazing.
Oregon should have a national championship in women's basketball.
They would have in 2020.
They absolutely, yeah.
COVID ruined everything.
I'm just so excited to be such a fucking homer today. We're talking about Oregon today. I'm just gonna be such a homer.
See,
and
here's the
I'm
thing
unabashedly gonna be a homer today. I don't give a fuck.
we were going through our prep last night for this episode, and I was trying my best to not do what Eli's talking about right now. It's impossible. I'm so fucking hyped for this team.
So, okay, listener and / viewer, we were being objective last night in our analysis of the teams.
The analysis is objective.
If you don't think we can do that as homers of Oregon, listen to our Washington episode. We were objective there. And if we can be objective about Washington and not shit on them the entire episode, then we are able to do Oregon. However, it might sound like we're going to be very much homers today. Spoiler alerts.
Here's the thing is, our research and our objective analysis led us to be even more homers. That's just a little spoiler alert.
So
I'm
just happy.
And then last topic before we jump into realignment talk. This is just a story I heard on the radio, so I have not dug into it at all. But I thought it was one of the most absurd things that I've heard this week.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan's son, Marcus Jordan, is marrying Scottie Pippen's ex-wife.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. This is weird.
Yeah,
One.
super weird.
2, I feel like, and this is the first time I've heard this. I feel like there is less of an age gap than you would expect because I feel like Scottie
I know what
Pippen
it
dates
is.
real young.
Okay, so what do you think the age gap is?
How old is Michael Jordan's son?
Hold on one second. He's 32. He's my age.
Okay, so if he's 32, I'm guessing she is 45.
That's really close. They're
Oh.
16 years apart. She's 48.
Okay, all right. I was close. I was just thinking like at first glance you're thinking, "Oh my god, this is like she's in her 60s," right? But then you remember Scottie Pippen's kind of a fucking weirdo and that he probably dated like stupid young. How old is Scottie Pippen right now?
It's a good question. Scottie Pippen.
Maybe Scottie Pippen's young and it's just like a weird thing that's happening.
He's 57. So he was 9 years older than
Well,
her.
I guess yeah, meet in the middle
I
somewhere,
guess
right?
she's 49 according to this. So they're probably like 16 and a half years apart.
That's still fucking weird, man.
It's weird, for sure.
Yeah, but I think you're overlooking that Pippen just gave another assist to a Jordan. So keeping it going.
I quit the podcast. I'm done. I'm over it.
Cameron's hitting his stride today.
I don't like it.
I
don't
do
like
like it. That is.
I'm supposed to be the funny one on the podcast, Cameron. Could you
That's
not?
good.
Could you not? Thanks.
No, Jamie Sports, you're funny sports. I'm just funny.
That was good.
Well, don't. Let's not get your ego
Let's
too
not get
inflated
carried
here.
away.
You are funny sometimes.
I picked all of the times tonight.
You're on a roll.
Cameron's getting his fill.
One of these is gonna fall flat.
I'm excited for that one. I'm just gonna be unrelenting.
Keep them coming though. I'm enjoying it. All right. So that's a thing. I don't really know what to make of that.
That's just weird, dude.
I mean, it's weird. There was already like a divide between Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, especially after The Last Dance.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's just a weird story.
I always forget that Pippen played for the Blazers.
How do you forget that as a Blazers fan?
I don't know, man. It was like a weird time in Blazers history.
That's true.
So I just kind of forget about it sometimes. I'm like, I remember Rasheed really well, like Sheed Wallace and like those kind of guys, but I don't remember. Like I always forget that like the Blazers got Pippen in his twilight years, and he wasn't that great.
It's true.
So, anyways,
All right.
football time, right?
Football time.
Yes.
We're still not drinking beer because we're trying to be healthy and things.
I've got some Pellegrino Essenza.
Nice. I have
Tangerine and wild strawberry.
I have a Stanley full of water.
Yum.
It's very good. Okay.
Tasty.
Realignment. Absolutely nuts. I believe in our last episode, we were basically on the brink of Oregon and Washington jumping to the Big Ten. I think it was literally the night before it happened. So that has obviously become official.
Wait, no, we talked about it, right?
I think. Hold on, let me go back
Did
to
we
the
not
notes.
talk about it being
I think
official?
it was. Nope, because the notes say it seems inevitable.
It happened because we were sad. Like that's the opening. We were mourning the Pac-12.
We were because it was like, this is going to happen.
Oh.
It officially happened the day after we recorded. That's semantics. it is officially done now. Oregon, Washington are in the Big Ten. They are taking a smaller cut of the pie. It appears through the first part of the media rights deal
Is
here,
that
and then
official? Like, I just keep seeing such weird shit about this.
I'm seeing anything from $30 million to $50 million, and then it escalates or it doesn't. I don't really know. Like, there's nothing official.
I've
out
also
there.
seen that Fox is coughing up a full share.
I have a feeling this isn't because there's no official story.
No.
Nothing is. There's some rumors that it's $30 million a year until the new media deal when they'll be full members of the Big Ten. There's other rumors that it's 50 million that escalates. There's other rumors that it's going to be a full share by the time Fox, CBS, and NBC pony up a little more.
Yeah.
Don't really know. So we'll see how it all pans out. But either way, Oregon and Washington are officially in the Big Ten. Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah are joining Colorado and moving to the Big 12. And that leaves Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, and Washington State absolutely stranded at the moment.
Yeah, man. I feel kind of bad for those programs. As much as, like, you know, the rivalry with Oregon State is like more for us in-staters is like more of like a fun rivalry than like a really serious one like the Washington one. But like I just feel bad for those programs, man. Like that's like kind of
Oregon State and Cal are in a very, very bad spot right now because both just finished very expensive stadium renovations.
Yeah.
That they were certainly planning on a media rights deal paying for.
Yeah, I mean I was seeing something I was seeing that Oregon State if they have to go to the Mountain West and they get the $4 million a year after 6 years or something like that, all the money for the stadium renovation as they're paying it back has to come from like city taxes, which is nasty for the people of Corvallis. Which is like really shitty, right? Because like they took this out expecting to get paid, but I don't know. I've been seeing some like rumblings that the AAC commissioner is working on a deal that would include Oregon State and Washington State, possibly Stanford and Cal, to make them the bottom of the Power Five, but they would all get up to like 15 or 20 mil a year, which would basically save those programs and also elevate the current schools in the AAC, which would be cool to see, I think.
Yeah, I've seen 4 scenarios basically being played out. The first scenario is that all 4 remaining Pac-12 teams combine with the Mountain West and merge to be the Pac-12 still, keep the automatic bid into the playoff, and then the media rights deal for the Mountain West would get combined with the Pac-12 media deal that's going to be proposed. And they'd be somewhere in the 15 to 18 kind of $1 million range per year. So it'd be not quite sky is falling $4 million, but definitely a major hit compared to the 30 that they were.
Torsten says that Fox is paying travel for everything.
So Fox is paying travel for Oregon and Washington, I would imagine is what that means. Yeah, I think that's one of the rumors. I haven't seen any of that be substantiated anywhere. Yeah. I've seen so many different, so I don't know that it's been all sorted out yet. I think Oregon and Washington got some assurances from Fox that they'll be taken care of, and the logistics need to be worked out. So that is possible that travel will be taken care of by Fox. Back to the Pac-4 now. The next scenario I saw is that it's the AAC, American Athletic Conference, that combines with the 4 schools. This one seems less and less likely by the day from what I'm reading. The one that keeps coming up randomly, like sporadically, is Cal and Stanford going to the ACC. And supposedly there's a vote tomorrow in the ACC for that to happen. Now, if that would happen, the next rumor would be that the Big 12 would swoop in and save Oregon State and Washington State, basically,
Yeah.
because those two would be left absolutely homeless.
Yeah, that would be like it seems weird for the ACC to pick up those two schools, but at the same time it doesn't. Because Notre Dame plays an ACC schedule, right? Essentially, they play 6 games or something like that in ACC every year.
Yep.
And one of their natural rivals is Stanford, and so it would actually free up space for Notre Dame on their schedule because it would be like a conference game at that point.
Right.
So that would actually make sense. That probably makes the most sense. And then Big 12
Football wise,
yeah, for
doesn't
sure.
make any sense any other way.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what this, like, it affects everything else, and there's like other factors, but like the driving factor here is football, right?
Really, the one that makes sense to me that doesn't seem likely at this point, because both parties have been very silent or vocally opposed to it, is that Cal and Stanford join the Big Ten, and Oregon State and Washington State join the Big 12.
Yeah.
That, to me, is what makes the most sense. Now, will that happen? I don't know. Does the Big 12 want to get to 18? I don't think so. Does the Big 10 want to get to 20? I don't think they want to be the first to do that. So I don't know what's going to happen with these four. I do feel really bad. Oregon State fans, Twitter is just rabid pit. And here's the thing is, I get it, because if I was sitting in their shoes, I'd be doing the exact same thing, spitting all the hate at Oregon and Washington.
See,
but
I don't get that.
this is a systematic failure of the Pac-12.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, yeah, we kind of like shit on USC and UCLA, right? Because they were the first domino to fall here, right? But, like, at this point, like, I'm not mad at Colorado for getting out. I wasn't mad at Arizona for getting out. And then at that point, especially after those two schools are gone, I think as a fan, just in general, you have to realize, like, this is it. Like, it's done.
You got to take whatever door is presented to you.
Yeah, it's not that, like, because I've been seeing that there's like that picture on like the Twitter picture. It's like says cowards and the O is an Oregon O and the W is O, and it's not that, man. Like, they're not afraid. Trust me, they're not afraid to play Washington State and Oregon State. Like,
look at the records over the past 30 years.
They're not afraid to play them. It's not that.
Get out of here.
I guess you can say cowards for trying, like, not trying to save the Pac-12, but it's also they're not. It's not their fucking job to save the Pac-12. It's their job to make money for the schools. And if the Big Ten is presenting that, it's hard to fault them. If you're gonna fault anyone, you fault Larry Scott, like we've done on this show millions of times, and you fault media networks. Those
and
are
the presidents of the universities, because they let Larry Scott stick around for too long.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of fault to go around. Blaming Oregon and Washington for any of this is short-sighted.
Well, it shows to me that you don't necessarily you're not really internalizing what is actually happening here. And they kind of think it's just like, it's just a move to get more exposure, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's not.
What it is.
It's a sinking ship that you need to jump off of to the first lifeline that gets to you. And if you can get a good deal out of it, you have to take it.
Yeah. Oregon State and Washington State fans pointing all their hate towards Oregon and Washington is like the students on campus that would groan about how much money the athletic department spends.
Yeah. That's a really good analogy, yeah.
That's because it's just short-sighted and you don't understand how this whole system works. Like, you just don't get it. And that's fine. Like, you can be ignorant, but like, when we tell you that that's not how it is.
Spewing hatred, don't be ignorant. Like, that's what you gotta do.
If you're gonna open your mouth, at least know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like when we fucking spew our hatred for Larry Scott, it's because we watched the whole thing unfold and we knew what was happening, and fuck that guy forever.
USC blocking the Big 12 additions is where their anger should be directed. That's from Torsten. Yeah, I mean, there are so many, like, we have directed, rightfully so, a lot of hate at Larry Scott, right? And he was an abomination of a commissioner. However, he was not the sole thing that doomed this conference. There was 10 years or more of this conference being way too full of itself and not looking to the future. And that is what got us here. Right. If you go back 10 years ago, 2010, 2011, Pac-12 signed the richest media rights deal in the history of college sports.
Mm-hmm.
They failed because they tried to create the Pac-12 network and they thought they could do their own standalone thing. That was failure number one when it comes to that media rights deal. Failure number two is exactly what Torsten pointed out there. USC blocking Texas and Oklahoma from joining the Pac-12 is what really started the downfall of this conference.
Mm-hmm. And then not even that much longer after that, blocking Texas Tech and Oklahoma State.
So they blocked Texas Tech and Oklahoma State after Texas and Oklahoma bailed for the SEC.
Yeah.
So that was recent. That was like 2 years ago. But like even if you go back 5 years, Larry Scott, this is where Larry Scott's failures really started to compound themselves because he couldn't admit that the Pac-12 network was an absolute failure of an idea and it just wasn't working. And he doubled down on it. And then the media rights partners are like, wait a minute. Like ESPN offered to buy the Pac-12 network and Larry Scott was like, no, we're doing our own thing. That is a joke. What are you doing?
While also moving the office to the highest effective tax rate in the country.
So that Larry Scott he started with a bad idea and then he just ran it into the ground.
Yeah.
Now, George Kliavkov came in and from the reports that I've read the last week or two, he presented an offer a year ago after USC and UCLA left that was $30 million a year from ESPN and Fox. And the Pac-12 presidents or somebody in the Pac-12, nobody's named names, but one of the presidents of the universities went to like an economics professor and said, what do you think our value is? And they put it at $50 million. So they declined the $30 million media rights deal because they wanted 50. And then ESPN said, fuck off.
Yep.
And that's where it was totally doomed. As soon as that happened and ESPN and Fox backed out, the Pac-12 was fucked.
Yeah.
So
CW can't
there's
carry
plenty
that
of blame to go around.
Yeah.
There's plenty of blame. The president you should have taken the $30 million and been happy with it because you could have blown that. You could have grown that. You just have to have a starting point. $30 million gets you in the door, like gets you up to where you're competing. You're not going to get Big Ten dollars in the Pac-12. You're not going to get SEC dollars, but you're going to be right there with the Big 12.
Well, and especially you look at going into a new like a new format with playoffs, and you have an automatic bid, and yeah, you may not be getting the money right away, but you have an automatic bid that grows your brand. If you have a couple teams, if you have I guess not USC, but if you have Oregon go on a run, if you have Oregon State go on a run, if you have Washington go on a run in the 12-team playoff, like that grows the brand, that grows media rights. So it's all fucked. It's a bunch of bad businessmen doing bad business.
I mean, it really sucks, right? Because it is destroying the heart of college football.
Yep.
We talked about this last week, so I'm not going to like absolutely just harp on it all day, but the college football we grew up knowing and loving is no more. Now, it's not bad. Like college football is still going to be great. Oregon going to play Penn State in a whiteout game in October is going to be fucking awesome.
It's going to be so sick.
So there's a lot of cool things to come from this. I can't imagine if I was an Oregon State or Washington State fan right now. I would just feel so helpless.
Yep.
Stanford and Cal,
and that's
I feel
probably
like
a lot of like
eventually
the
will
cowards.
be fine, but
that's a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
That's where it's coming from. Is they're just like,
they're
we're fucked.
defeated.
Yeah.
They're totally defeated, and they're clawing at anything that I get it, man. I'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
So really tough. I wanted to bring up Chip Kelly had some thoughts on this, and because he doesn't love all of it either. Even UCL, like he's like, this all sucks. He was like, Chip Kelly. Did you read any of what Chip Kelly proposed? He's like, there should be the 64 top programs in college football should not be linked to a conference. Should be allowed to split into 2 32-team leagues with a playoff, basically.
Sure. It's Chip Kelly being Chip Kelly, man.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Logistically, it'll be fucked weird, like fucking weird though too. Like,
won't be that weird. It's basically the NFL.
No, but yeah, but like the main a lot of the problem here is that like the logistics of and like regionality is like fucked now, right?
Regionality's gone. He's basically saying that's toast, and we've seen it. It is gone. So unless we can get it back, right? The only way to avoid this is to get it back. I think I sent you a TikTok yesterday that I really liked, and obviously I like it. It's 6, the Power 6 conferences, all with 12 schools in it, and it's completely 100% regional.
Yeah.
You got the Pac-12, you got the Big 12, you got the Big 10, you got the SEC, and you got the ACC.
And AAC.
ACC. And AAC. Yeah, that's right. There was an AAC in there. But we're never, the only way you get to something like that is if you have NCAA media rights that are evenly distributed between all of those conferences.
Yep.
If you don't have that, then you're always going to have people jumping ship and trying to get more.
Yep. Just fucking sucks, man.
It sucks, but it's also going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's. I'm mourning the loss of what college football was, and I am still excited for.
You went through it with me, my roller coaster of emotions.
Oh
on
my
that
god,
Friday.
dude!
Dude, I was all over the place.
I thought Jamie was pregnant. He was all over the place, man.
Well, it doesn't help that I got 3 kids and no sleep, and just like
totally. I think I texted you at one point. I was like, "Bro, what is going on?"
Said, "Welcome to my hell."
Yeah,
it was nuts, man. Like my first thought was, "This sucks ass. Like none of this is cool. I hate it. College football sucks." And then I was like, "Wait a minute. We get to play Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State and Nebraska, and like this is going to be awesome." I was like, "Wait a minute, they're just going to throw us in the night slot every game."
Yeah,
because we're on the West Coast. It's just like the roller coaster of emotion. I'm still worried about game times. I'm not over that one. I think they're going to want that night slot every week, and it's going to be a West Coast team that's in it. So I'm not over the fact that I just don't think it'll be Pac-12 after dark late. Like it's not going to be a 9 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff, but it's going to be late.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you, I'm not like all that worried about the prevalence of that, and because I mean, all this stems from media market, right? And like they don't want to put a game. They don't want to put Penn State at Oregon at 7 p.m. because Pennsylvania is all going to be in bed, right? And so it doesn't do them any good. Now, if it's USC or UCLA or Washington, I'll take 3 night games a year. Like I don't really care about that much.
I just think they're good. West Coast, but the problem is that Pac-12 after dark, like currently Pac-12 after dark. That is a time slot that has to be filled, whether they want USC to be in it or not. That time slot has to be filled. And so if Fox, NBC, CBS create that Pac-12 after dark, Big Ten after dark time slot, it's not like they can just pick 3 times to do that. It's like that's a thing. And that's how these
the question I have is like, how valuable is that time slot? Truly,
I don't think they would have expanded West if they didn't think it was valuable.
I mean, I don't know about that. I think they expanded West because they got an LA media market. But like
Right,
Like,
but why do you get the LA media market? And a lot of that is for the West Coast
I don't
time
think
zone.
it's for the time zone. I think it's for
A lot
the
of it.
market. I think it's for.
But even prime time on
storied
the West
programs.
Coast, even prime time on the West Coast. So like if you like prime time on the East Coast is 8:00. Right, that's the prime time slot for East Coast games. So 8:00 on the West Coast is 11:00 on the East Coast. That's a Pac-12 after dark game. You want the prime time on the West Coast time slot. You're going to be sticking those West Coast teams in the prime time slot.
I just don't think it's going to be as prevalent as we think it as you think it is. I don't see that being as valuable as
I'm thinking it's,
and especially the Big Ten does try to advocate for its schools in a lot of ways, and so I don't think they're going to be like, okay, if you're in the Pac-12, you're kicking off at 8 p.m. every week. Like, I just don't think that's.
I don't think it's going to be every week. I think the home games, though, especially the home games against the West Coast teams, those are for sure that.
I think home games against West Coast teams, I think that's going to be there, but I just don't see them.
So what happens to that time slot the rest of the weeks then?
I don't know. Do they absolutely need it? Like this is like the thing for me is like Pac-12 after dark.
I mean, the LA market?
Pac-12 after dark was notoriously underviewed. It was the only time slot, but like it was basically worthless.
I don't think that's true at all.
Everybody's in bed
on the East Coast. Yes.
Yeah, like I was like underwatched. If I remember correctly, they were like it. I mean, it could have been that just because it was like a lot of like low pride teams that played, but they always played great games. But like Pac-12 after dark, if I remember, like it just like wasn't that valuable. I just don't see them coveting that time slot as much as, especially having their top programs in there, like because instantly 3 of the programs going into the Big Ten are going to be in their top half instantly. Putting them in a time slot where it's not prime time in their main market, I just don't see it as much. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong here. I just don't see it.
You got Nebraska and Minnesota and Wisconsin all in the central time zone. I would argue it's not too late. A 7 p.m. Pacific time kickoff's not too late for them. It's 9 p.m. We have 9 p.m. kickoffs Mountain Time in the Pac-12. I don't know, man. It's something that I'm interested to see how they work this out logistically, I guess is kind of where I'm going with it. What you're never going to see is an Ohio State game starting at Autzen past 5 p.m. That's true. They're never going to you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. The marquee matchups, the big time games, like if Penn State comes to Oregon or if Ohio State comes to Oregon, that game is never going to kick off past 8 p.m. Eastern, ever.
I mean, I don't even really see that with like any of the teams out there. Like that's going to be so late for some of those kids.
If Indiana is in Oregon, you cannot tell me that the Big Ten's like, yeah, you're kicking off at 7:00.
Yeah, like they're not going to do that. And so like I agree with you that the home games for West Coast matchup, I think that is an easy time slot into late games.
I hope what they do.
But I'm down with that. I guess
along those lines with what you're saying, I hope they say something to the effect of, and this goes for the West. This is what's also going to be hard is because Big Noon is like the primetime slot for the Big Ten, and that's 9 a.m. for West Coast teams.
Yeah.
So like, are these teams ever going to get on Big Noon? Because that would suck ass.
Yeah, that's miserable.
So I hope not. But like, I hope what I would hope is the Big Ten says something to the effect of, your team will never kick off earlier than noon local time, or probably 11 because or later than 8 p.m. your home state's local time.
Yeah. 8 p.m.
So like
Oh, you're
8 p.m.
talking.
prime time
I
on
see
the
what you
East
mean
Coast.
for everyone.
So like
So
if Penn
yeah.
State's playing Oregon, it can't kick off any later than 5 p.m. in Oregon.
yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, something like that would be good. Also, Torsten does say last time Oregon was on Big Noon at Ohio State. Bring it.
Yeah,
I'm down with that.
I hate 9 a.m. kickoffs, dude. I hate them. That sucks.
Yeah,
On
it
the
does.
West Coast. Torsten, I'm sure you love that. It was a noon kickoff, and you were probably, yeah, you were loving that. And I know that I'm very well aware that my first game with Prime is going to be at 10 a.m. Thank you for reminding me. Not happy about it, but here we are. I don't think any local market should kick off earlier than noon. It's college kids aren't even up before that. Come on.
I used to sleep until like 2 p.m. in college.
Yeah. We had to get up fucking early because we were in the band, but
Yeah.
that's a story for another day. I don't know, man. I hope they do it right. And that's probably something along the lines that they'll do is that your team can't kick off prior to, it'd probably be like 10 a.m. local time and they would probably do something like adjust Big Noon kickoff to 1 p.m. Eastern for the West Coast. So it's a 10 a.m. local time kickoff. Like it's going to suck in some way. It probably won't be awful. So you're probably right. It's just the logistics of them doing this. And also, this is supposed to be the last year, or is it already? Did the Big Ten already get rid of divisions? Or is this the last year for it? I can't remember.
I think they already got rid of them.
So this is the first year. Nope, it has them. So this is supposed to be the last year of divisions
I think they'll
for
bring
the
them
Big
back.
Ten. So it was supposed to be done. I think it's got it. I don't know how you logistically with 18 teams. I don't know.
I
We'll
mean, here's the
figure it
thing.
out.
Here's the thing. Selfishly, as an Oregon fan, I hope they get rid of divisions because there's almost no chance that Oregon gets in a division with Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State. And I want to see Oregon play those guys, and so I am fine with no divisions and like the logistical.
I mean, the
nightmare, 'cause
problem,
I don't have to do that.
But like it's 18 teams. You play 9 conference games a year. Is the Big Ten plays 9 conference games a year. So I guess you just but you got to keep the traditional ones.
Yeah,
So we're gonna play Penn State once every 4 years.
something.
I don't know, man. It'll be interesting. I can tell you, there's a few stadiums on here I'm not going to, like Rutgers. Not interested.
Have you already been there?
No, I've not been to Rutgers.
I thought you went to a Rutgers game.
I've
when
been
you
to
were out.
Indiana.
Indiana,
I've been
that's
to
right.
Indiana.
That's right. You went to Indiana.
But if I hadn't, I wouldn't be interested.
Yeah, I want to go. My bucket list for this, obviously, the shoe,
Ohio State, Penn State
night game, Camp Randall, all of these night games. I see. Here's the thing: is like we're talking about like that late slot. I fucking love a good night game. So,
Oh, I love good 6 p.m. local time kickoff, 5 p.m. Yeah, all in.
yeah,
8 p.m. You're starting to lose me.
I'll still take it. I fucking love that shit.
Whatever. I mean,
when
I
I'm
love
sitting at
college
home,
football,
it's
whatever.
not as great. But like, if I'm in the stadium,
Oh, yeah.
like give me
Yeah,
a
yeah.
7 p.m. kickoff, right? Like,
Yeah.
Agreed. But like, yeah, I Camp Randall is like a bucket list stadium for me with their jump. Like, I gotta go.
100%.
And I've been kind of like on some like forums and message boards, and the Big Ten fans are so excited to come to Autzen.
Oh,
I like it's so funny
I've
to hear all
never
this
felt-
Midwest like, boy.
I've never felt so much outside love for Oregon than since joining the Big Ten.
It's crazy.
Even from like Ohio State and teams that like historically don't love us.
Yeah,
They're like,
especially
yeah,
since we
this
beat
is
'em.
cool. Well, what I thought was cool, and this is where I like you talk about my roller coaster of emotions that day. I laid down on my couch. It was like 11 at night. I turned on my TV. I have Hulu Live, right? So I don't have cable or anything. I went right to the Big Ten Network, and they were full 24-hour coverage of Oregon and Washington coming
Yeah.
to the Big Ten. I was like, that is fucking sick. I couldn't do that 12 hours ago. I can't watch the Pac-12 network. So that was a cool moment. It's going to be an adjustment. Like Oregon State AD basic or Rob Mullins, the Oregon AD, said we want to keep the Oregon State game alive, and the Oregon State AD basically said we'll see. Because he's all bitter about it.
Yeah, but that's also really tough, especially initially in the first couple of years, because you have to knock people off the schedule because it is now an out-of-conference game.
This is the same problem that Colorado had with Colorado State and Nebraska. Is it turned into a twice every 6 years type deal.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's enough about realignment. We will get into that more over the next year, especially when we get to the off season. But it's now time to round out our Pac-12. Yes, it's still Pac-12 previews.
Pac-12 rip preview.
We're going to start with Oregon because that's what most of you are here for, I'm sure. Again, like we teased earlier, we tried to be as objective with this as we possibly could when we were doing our analysis, and I think we did a good job. As you'll see as we run through this, we're pretty fucking high on this team. And that comes from being a fan. We can't deny it. I'm wearing the hat. I can't deny that I'm a fan and that I look at this through emerald-colored glasses.
Yeah.
But there's some reasoning to it, and that's what we're going to get into now. So let's start with our 2022 recap. We probably don't need to dig into this too much, but there's some listeners that are probably new and need to hear it. So Oregon finished tied for second in the Pac-12, finished at 10-3, 7-2 in conference. That's kind of a loaded 10-3 because the 3 losses were real bad.
Yeah, the 3 losses, I mean, they were real bad in the Georgia loss was really bad.
It's just ugly.
The Washington loss is bad because it's a rival. But like if in any other scenario, we wouldn't call that a bad loss. Right? Unless it was a rival. Oregon State was a bad loss.
And it was a rival.
For sure. So, not a great 10-3, but you take it.
It's 10-3, first year head coach, new quarterback, new system, new everything. Good season. Best win of the season was probably UCLA. That's when they looked the most complete. That's when they started to be back in the conversation. Dominant performance top to bottom, that UCLA game.
It's either
incredible.
that game or I would also throw in the UNC win, because UNC was really good and Drake May played out of his fucking mind that game, and they still came back and won. So those two.
I did like the UNC game because it was a comeback, and the thing that Oregon struggled with last year was finishing games. Especially that Washington and Oregon State game. They had both those games and just blew it. So it was good to see them fight back and win with good coaching in the bowl game.
Yeah. Torsten brings up Utah. I didn't love that win. It was nice. It was fun. It was a good win, but it felt to me like more of Utah not showing up, which makes it less fun of a win, I guess, than Oregon win. It was more Utah. It felt more like Utah really losing it than Oregon really winning it, as opposed to the other two that we've mentioned.
Yep, agreed. Let's get into some offensive statistics. They were top in the pack in this, but not as high as I thought. Fourth in scoring, fourth in total yards per game, fourth in passing yards per game, third in rushing yards per game, fifth in third down percentage, and fourth in red zone touchdown percentage. Very good offense. Not in the elite category that the top tier of the Pac-12 was,
Yeah.
I would say. Injured Bo beating a team who manhandled us last 2 times. It was a good win, right? The Utah, I don't want to like keep hammering on this. That game felt like Cam Rising's worst game. And so it kind of the chips fell in the right direction. Yes, Oregon capitalized, but
It was a
again, like Eli
satisfying
said-
win for sure, especially with an injured Bo. But that kind of highlights
and the
fact
redemption
that,
of getting absolutely stomped by
Yeah.
Utah the previous year. But anyway, defense was 5th in the pack in points per game allowed, 4th in total yards allowed, 6th in passing yards allowed, 4th in rushing yards allowed, 2nd in interceptions, tied for 7th in fumble recoveries, 9th in sacks, and tied for 5th in defensive touchdowns. So solid team from top to bottom, not elite in any category, basically.
yeah. So Torsten comes back
Statistically.
with Washington State was his favorite win.
No.
That was my favorite heart attack.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
my favorite trip to the ER.
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't say it was my favorite win though.
No. And it should that's just a team you should not be that anyway, no.
They were hot.
I
at the beginning of the
appreciate your
season.
input. I appreciate your input, but that was not my favorite win.
Yeah, I got a little closer to the Widowmaker that's going to take me out in 20 years. So
Yeah,
Dude,
That was my
Cameron
favorite
and I
cardiac
got
arrest.
back to my house from a CU game for the 4th quarter, and so it was basically heart attack, just ready to go. All right. Bo Nix was the heart of this team, and when he was healthy, that offense was humming. So we talked about those offensive statistics. I would venture to guess before Bo got hurt in those last 3 weeks, those numbers were in the 2nd or 3rd range in the Pac-12.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think the injury to Bo Nix last year cannot be understated, as it like the offense. One of the major reasons the offense flowed so well last year was because of Bo Nix's running ability, and when you take away an entire third of your offensive ability and firepower, it's just tough. Like
Put it this way: if Bo Nix is healthy, Oregon beats Oregon State by a lot.
and I think they win that Washington game.
Yeah, because he got hurt in the Washington
Yeah.
game.
So
So,
you're looking
yeah,
at 12-1.
you're right. The injury to Bo Nix was basically the end of that season.
Yeah.
Even though he kept playing, and he's a tough SOB because those high ankle sprains suck ass.
Mhm.
But yeah, if he stays healthy, I think we're having a different discussion today about last season. Even that said, dude completed 71.9% of his passes. If you're completing 72% of your passes, you are in the elite quarterback category.
Yes.
There's just no
1
doubt about
million
it.
percent.
That is an elite stat line for somebody who threw the ball as much as he did. There's just no two ways about it. It was fantastic. He had 3,600 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The biggest problem Bo Nix had at Auburn in his time there was he would try to force things, and he did not do that last year at Oregon. He was methodical. He was smart. He hit the right reads almost every time, and he was accurate.
Yes, sir. Yes,
There's
sir.
just no two ways about it. Bo Nix is the real deal. And again, if he doesn't get hurt, I think we're having a totally different discussion about last year. As you can tell, there's going to be a key to the Oregon season here to come later, and it's going to be in line with basically that of the rest of the Pac-12. Moving on a little bit to this year, there's going to be a lot of turnover going into year 2 under Dan Lanning. This was the great exodus from Oregon. Last year, Dan basically fought as hard as he could to keep every player that he could on the roster because he had to. It was too late in the recruiting cycle. He couldn't do exactly what Deion Sanders did. First of all, he's not Deion Sanders, so he can't do that. Second of all, he a first-year head coach, just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
It seems this is very methodical. Everybody was like freaking out at the beginning of the transfer portal with how many players were leaving. Looking back on it, it was a very methodical and thought out plan by Dan Lanning.
Yeah, I think one of the things is when you have a head coaching change, there's going to be some square pegs that are trying to fit in round holes, and you got to realize that quick and move on. And that's okay. It's never necessarily a bad thing to do that. And I think a lot of the exodus this year was like, I just don't fit with this team anymore. Like which is fine. I lost my train of thought. Totally. Just absolutely
A+.
gone out of my head in the middle of that sentence.
With that, the Ducks had 33 players transfer out. They're bringing 16 transfers in. I don't think they're sitting at their full scholarship allotment, but they have a full roster. And there were some big names leaving. We have talked about a few of them in our other Pac-12 previews, the biggest of them being Justin Flo, was previous number one player, and he just never saw the field enough and couldn't stay healthy.
Injured the whole time, yeah.
And I think probably doesn't fit.
Yep. Fans need to get used to, and this started really with the Cristobal era, with the high level of recruiting that Oregon is at right now. Fans need to get used to losing big names.
Yep.
Because everyone's kind of a big name on this team. They're all, like, if you look at the recruiting over the last 6 years, there's a lot of really good players that Oregon's not going to have anymore. And that doesn't mean that they don't have good players anymore. It just means that somebody was probably beating them out. Like, they genuinely, like, you just got to get used to, like, sometimes the stars don't really mean as much as you think.
Right. And if you look at the departing players, there's not a lot of lost contribution.
Yeah.
In there. Right? Like, again, big names, guys that we were excited for in the recruiting cycle, but not a lot of guys that were like Sean Dollars, for example, right? And Seven McGee. These are guys that had a lot of hype, but they never really produced on the field.
Yeah.
And so while we feel like it's a big loss because it's a big name that we know and like, it's not a huge loss production-wise. So
yeah, I mean, Justin Flo is like the perfect example of that, right? Like, he's a big name. He was one of the biggest recruits Oregon's ever gotten, but he couldn't stay on the field. And he's also the same kind of linebacker that Noah Sewell is, right? Just a talented freak that's instinctual as hell, which doesn't necessarily fit into Dan Lanning's system of how linebackers need to be. And so, like, it's the same kind of thing. Like, the fit just isn't really necessarily there. And, like, if you can't stay healthy, like, your stars mean nothing.
100%.
That's what it is.
Yep. So let's get into the key departing players on offense. Ducks are losing 3 offensive line starters and 1 rotational guy. That's, oh God, I'm going to screw his name up. Is it Amave Lalu? TJ Bass, Alex Forsyth are the 3 starters. And then Ryan Walk was the rotational guy that are all departing the team. And then you also have wide receiver Chase Cota and wide receiver Dante Thornton leaving. Chase Cota is in the NFL for the Detroit Lions, who's the second leading receiver on the team. And then Dante Thornton transferred to Tennessee. Not a huge loss production-wise, but he's a guy that had a ton of upside. Mm-hmm. So high ceiling, but as we'll find out later, the wide receiver room is not hurting for talent.
No.
On the defensive side of the ball, obviously the biggest loss is going to be Christian Gonzalez, first-round pick, 17th overall to the Patriots. Led the team with 4 picks, just a lockdown corner. It's going to be hard to replace. And then Noah Sewell at linebacker, you kind of touched on him there. Very instinctual linebacker. didn't necessarily fit in Dan Lanning's system the way we were thinking that he might. He struggled a little bit last year, and it ended up dropping him to a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
For the Bears, and then they also lost starting safety Bennett Williams to the Dolphins. He was the leading tackler on the team. Those are key departing players. We're talking about returning guys on offense. Obviously, we got Bo Nix with his giant poster in New York City.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Coming back. That was something else. Bodacious. Heisman hopeful. Really came out from under his Auburn shell last year. Went through the stats already. Just an absolute stud at quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's certified stud. And like, he took a huge step forward from his Auburn days under Dillingham's watchful eye. And like, the good part about this upcoming season is, though Dillingham is gone, Will Stein does not run a dissimilar offense from Dillingham.
Right.
And so I don't expect Bo to take any sort of backslide this year. Because it's basically what he was running last year. A couple differences here and there, but it's going to be a really easy transition for a guy who works as hard as he does. He also gains a lot of weapons. He's got some pretty powerful weapons to go to. The problem at the quarterback position is depth. Right.
Yeah, we'll get to the position previews, but yes, I mean, when we're talking about returning guys, you're returning most of your offensive weapons. You've got Troy Franklin coming back at receiver, Chris Hudson at receiver, Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington at running back, two-headed monster, maybe one of the best 1-2 punches in college football. And you're also returning a couple offensive linemen that got significant playing time, and a starter at left tackle in Josh Connerly Jr. So while they're losing 3 guys on the O-line, you have some continuity there, and then you're bringing in a couple transfers that should fill the holes adequately. We'll get to the position previews again shortly. On the defensive side of the ball, returning Jeffrey Bassa and Mace Funa at linebacker. Those are 2 guys that should be very good this year, I believe. And Brandon Dorless, obviously, at the end. The entire secondary is going to be new, so we'll get to that in a minute. But those are your key returners on this team. A lot of returning production, and so that generally, and continuity on offense is a big thing, and they have a lot of that. Let's get into the recruiting class just a little bit. 9th overall, 2nd in the Pac-12, one of the best Oregon classes ever. And in terms of high school recruits, it was 9th overall and 2nd in the pack. And in terms of transfers, it was 9th overall and 3rd in the pack. So just a great overall recruiting class for Dan Lanning.
Yeah. I mean, the recruiting is not going to be in question for this guy.
No. Not even a little bit. All right. Let's get into our position-by-position preview here. Let's start with the offensive line. Eli, what do you think about this O-line?
Yeah, so the O-line, I have some thoughts. Shocker.
Weird.
Shocker here. I know, it's weird. So the 3 guys they lost, it's big losses. Those guys were talented. I mean, Forsythe has been the quarterback of that offensive line for, 3 years now? 4 years? And he's just, I mean, they're all great players, so that's a huge loss. And this unit has a lot of, big shoes to fill. However, I think that the incoming group is going to be fine. They got some really talented young guys, like you mentioned earlier, like Josh Connerly Jr. They've got Dave Luley, who's going to be a really good, he was a high 4-star, I think, offensive lineman coming out of high school, who can be a good rotational player. Connerly's going to be starting. And they're returning Powers Johnson, who is, he was essentially a starter. He wasn't at times, but he played every position on the line. Expect him in at center, and to do fine. Like, he's not going to be as good as Forsythe was probably, but He'll be fine. And then they bring in Junior Angelo from Texas, who was a 4-year starter, I believe, at Texas. Dude's a stud. Absolute stud.
Yep.
He grades out super well. And they also got this guy, Johnny Cornelius, he came from, I don't know, some community college or whatever, or FCS, or I can't even remember where he came from.
Rhode Island.
Yeah, he came from Rhode Island. Shout out Chip Kelly, right? Or
That was Delaware.
Delaware. Damn it. It's pretty much the same. Tell me a difference between Rhode Island and Delaware now.
I've
exactly.
never been either of them.
Exactly.
The name is different.
Yeah. And so those guys come in, and those guys are pretty much instant starters. They're super good. Johnny, I watched some of his tape earlier when he first committed. Dude's nuts. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I want to caution what I'm going to say here. That last year's line was one of the best offensive lines in Oregon history. I don't know if you guys remember this, but through week 7, Bo Nix had not been sacked. So when I say this is going to be a step back on the offensive line. So from where they were, which was an elite unit of offensive linemen, they're going to take a step back to a solid line. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year, but they've got a lot of solid players and they've got a good rotation who's going to have a lot of good experience. So I don't see an issue here with the major losses.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is this unit is not as good as it was last year, but it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah. They're not going to lose you games necessarily.
Right.
So.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the quarterback position. We kind of touched on this earlier.
Yeah, I got ahead of myself.
Bo Nix is
unbelievable. So
unbelievable.
Good. So good. Dark horse Heisman candidate.
He's everything you would want in a quarterback. He can move. He can throw. He's accurate. He's smart.
Yep.
He's a good leader. Just everything about the guy is good right now.
Yeah. The problem with the quarterback room is the depth. You saw it last year. We talked about this. Bo Nix got hurt last year, and he still played, even though he was clearly a shell of what he was. And that's because former 4-star / 5-star, depending on what service you go through, Ty Thompson, has not seen the field, which is
at all
concerning, at all. Even during garbage time, not really. But he's probably going to be the number 2, and everything out of camp is saying he has made a good step forward. And then there is a true freshman, Austin Novosad, the flip from Baylor, I think.
Yep.
And who's getting pretty rave reviews outside of his criticism is that he is a freshman, and it shows. So either way, you don't want Bo Nix to get injured this year.
I mean, that's been a constant theme in the Pac-12. Michael Penix Jr., you don't want him getting hurt. Cam Rising can't get hurt. Shadur Sanders can't get hurt.
Yep.
Caleb Williams can't get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. If starting quarterback goes down, you're pretty much toast.
Yeah, and the Pac-12 has a kind of surprising lack of depth for how good at quarterback the conference is this year. The depth is pretty spotty here. Yep. So Sam brings up, would you say, I'm assuming he's talking about Bo here, that he's on par with Marcus during the chip times?
No,
I agree with Jamie. I don't think so. Marcus was in the
absolute unicorn in that. If you're trying to find somebody to be Marcus Mariota in 2013, 2014, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. But
Caleb Williams didn't even have that kind of year last year.
Bo Nix's season last year is not comparable, but it's up there with Oregon quarterbacks.
If he didn't get hurt in that Washington game, and they finish the Washington game and win, and they beat that Oregon State team, and they go 11-1 and go into that Pac-12 championship game and beat Utah again, and are even remotely thinking about a playoff, then you're talking about a season that probably would have been somewhat comparable, and
Yeah.
even then, statistically, it wouldn't have been close.
Yeah, no, Marcus was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Marcus was insane.
Good question though. I like that question. That's a good question. It's a fun thought process because we also probably have a little bit of bias on Marcus just because we got 3 years of him and we only have one of Bo so far. But like,
I mean, just for comparison, Marcus in 2014, Bo threw for 3,500 yards last year. Marcus threw for 4,500 yards. Marcus in 2014 had 42 touchdowns
Jesus
and
fuck.
4 picks.
Jesus fuck, dude.
He averaged 10 yards per attempt.
God damn.
So, like, if you're trying to find somebody to be Marcus Mariota, it's just probably not going to happen.
Yeah. That's wild, man. That's
Like,
wild.
let me just real quick, let me look up Caleb Williams 2022 stats real fast. 4,500 passing yards, 42 passing touchdowns, 52 total touchdowns. So Caleb Williams had a similar season last year.
Yeah, and
to
he was
Marcus.
almost a consensus Heisman winner.
Yeah,
So-
like Marcus was.
Yeah, pretty crazy, man.
How many picks did he have? 5 picks. So yeah, like that's a season that's on par with, like, if you're trying to find somebody that's going to be even close to Marcus, Caleb Williams was that.
Yep.
He still didn't even average as many passing yards per attempt. I mean, Marcus was in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
In 2014, that was insanity. So yeah, Duck fans, if you're trying to find Marcus 2.0, keep looking.
Bo
It's
is
gonna
great.
Be a long
He ain't
time.
Marcus.
Yeah, just enjoy what you got. We'll go with that.
Mhm.
Lightning in a bottle is hard to catch twice. Running back room, how you feel about these guys?
I love this room. It is 5 deep. I love this room. I told you yesterday, this is a stacked room. I mean, Bucky Irving, Noah Whittingham, Whittington. I always do that. I always do that.
You do.
What is it? James Jordan, and then the 2 freshmen coming in. All of them are. If 2 guys go down this season, it's not going to be a crazy drop off.
It's still a stacked
It's
room.
still a stacked room. Every single one of these guys brings something unique to the table, is great in what they do. I mean, Bucky is just so fucking
Bucky
good.
Irving is. I like that guy. Took me by complete surprise last year.
Complete surprise.
He has the vision and cutting ability of LaMichael James, with the strength and power of,
Stewart.
probably
Royce.
not quite that strong.
Royce Freeman?
I was
Yeah.
going with Royce Freeman. I wasn't going to go quite Jace too, because that would be insanity. But
He's up there, man.
his vision, and I haven't seen somebody do that since LaMichael James.
Yeah, I would agree
And-
with that.
And the way that he can cut and hit a hole, it is fun to watch.
Hmm. And then,
And then no Whittington. Now you're gonna make.
I'm
me
gonna
do
make you do it. No Whittington.
No Whittington's top end speed. He can just run away from guys.
He is the perfect complement to
Perfect.
Bucky.
It's like
I love
it's
this
like
room.
it's like Kenyon Barner and LaMichael James, but flipped.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. I love this room, and like even like this the guys who like fit. Well, who's 5th on the depth chart right now?
That would be Jaden Lamar.
Lamar, like, he's fucking incredible too. Like
And
I watched
Dante Dowdle is. Those are both.
Dante Dowdle is a
Dowdle
big old bruiser boy, and I'm very
and-
excited to see what he does.
And Jaden Lamar. Those are 2 true freshmen.
Yeah. This
Room
room
is
is
stacked.
crazy.
Absolutely stacked. Nothing else to say about it. Wide receiver room, talked about losing 2 big guys,
This
key
room
contributors,
is more stacked than the running back room.
which is insane.
Yeah. So we talk about, guys, we were talking about how we're like trying not to be homers, and this is stuff that surprised me. I was thinking that wide receiver was going to be kind of rough this year, but then everything I've looked at since then is just totally skyrocketed my expectations for this team. Like, so Chase Cota, bad loss, but Tez Johnson, Bo Nix's adopted brother, may actually be a better fit here. A lot of people are ranking him as the second most important wide receiver in the country this year, right behind Marvin Harrison Jr. Not most important, highest graded wide receiver, second highest graded wide receiver, and he's gonna add to a room that with Hudson and Franklin, who are already elite wide receivers at the college level. Not even mentioning 5-star recruit Jurion Dickey, who's showing every star that he earned in camp. Not mentioning Kyle Casper, who redshirted last year, 6'6", 6'6" at wide receiver. That is a Stanford wide receiver, and we got it.
Yeah, yes,
right.
it is.
And then you got an Alabama transfer in Trayshawn Holden, who's probably going to be starting because it's just, like, this room is crazy.
The amount
I will
of
not be
talent.
surprised that if at the end of the season Bo Nix has thrown to 15 receivers. Like, it's just crazy, dude.
With 5,000 passing yards.
Yeah, this room is just nutty.
If you're a this is when I started, like, my excitement started to ramp up for this team. You talk about that running Bo Nix. So we start with Bo Nix, right? True dual threat quarterback. 29 passing touchdowns last year, 14 rushing touchdowns. The dude can do it all with his legs and his arm. 72% completion percentage, right? We can go through the whole thing again. So that's point number 1. Then we get to the running back room. Stacked running back room, able to complement Bo Nix in every way possible. And then you get out to the weapons that he has outside. Where do you even start to game plan for this team?
I mean, if you're putting me in a DC room and I'm watching this, my only hope is stacking the middle of the box and getting to Bo as quickly as possible. You
have to stack the middle of the box to stop the run and get to Bo Nix. If you don't do that, you're screwed.
Yeah. The key for every other team this season is to get pressure on Bo Nix as quickly as possible. I mean, that's your only hope, truly, because like there are some good corners and good DBs in this group. No DB room is going to be able to cover the top 5 of these guys on the, like,
Troy Franklin, Trayshawn
wide,
Holden, Tez Johnson, Chris Hudson, Kyler Casper. No chance.
If
and
Oregon
also
goes
you need
4
to throw
wide,
Terrence Ferguson in there.
yeah. If they go 4 wide at wide, like you can't cover that.
Nope.
So you have to make Bo throw bad balls,
which he doesn't do very often.
But that is your hope. I'm like, honestly, like, if I'm in a 4-2 defense, I'm stacking, like, I'm on
8 in the box.
No, I'm going to put 2 guys on each A gap, or one guy on each A gap, and just blast as fast as you can through this line.
It's going to be a jailbreak blitz every play.
Engage 8 all day, dude. Engage 8 is it. Shift the line left, shift the linebackers right, engage 8. Let's go.
And then you're going to get torched.
It's this offense is going to be scary good.
We were talking about USC being the best offense in the country, and I think that holds.
Yep, I would agree.
This group is being slept on nationally.
So USC, I think their talent ceiling is higher here. I think Oregon's offense is far more well-rounded.
Because of the rushing game.
And I think, like, the wide receivers at USC, there's like 4 really good top-tier receivers. Oregon's got like 6 or 7, like chomping at the bit. It's yeah, and obviously the running back isn't even a comparison. The running back room isn't even a comparison.
This is the best running back room in the
and
conference.
Caleb Williams is better than Bo Nix. So that's where the edge really is that Caleb Williams is pretty far better than Bo Nix.
Caleb Williams is him.
Yeah, he's him. So we haven't done tight ends yet, though.
I kind of mentioned it. Terrence Ferguson and Patrick Herbert are coming back. Terrence Ferguson is a solid tight end. He's not going to blow the doors off, but he's solid.
Yeah, so like the way I look at this room is one, Will Stein doesn't really use tight ends all that much. To begin with, like he generally, you're going to see a lot of 4 wide in this offense this year. But the room, the talent, like the tight end room is good. It's really balanced. Terrence Ferguson is a stud, but he excels really in the run blocking game. That's where they're going to use him, I think, mostly. He's a great receiver too, but Herbert is actually a better receiver in my eyes and worse of a run blocker. So they complement each other well, and the depth isn't really there. But
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be, and like if need be, there's a really talented high upside freshman, Kenyon Sadiq, who they got. And if they need somebody to really try to step up and be a difference maker, they will probably burn his red shirt, and he'll probably end up trying to be the guy. But red shit, the red shit,
the red shit. Probably should go see a doctor. All right. Let's move on to the defense. D-line. You've got Casey Rogers, Popo Amave, and Brandon Dorlus anchoring that D-line. They're kind of running a hybrid 3-4.
It's a weird defense, man.
Weird defense.
Mint defense is weird.
Dan Lanning is a defensive wizard, but it takes a special guy to play it right.
Yeah.
And I think he has his guys now, but yeah, so the D-line, let's just keep it there for now. Those 3 guys are kind of anchoring that D-line. You got Keon Ware Hudson behind them, who's also a stud. Like, this is a solid group on the D-line.
Yeah. So just real quick aside, if you guys have not seen a video of Dan Lanning breaking down defenses, you have to go watch it. It's insane.
Go watch it.
His mind is unbelievable.
Cameron, try to find it and put it in the chat, please, if you would.
Jordan Riley was drafted this year, and that is a hit for sure. However, I think Popo Amave, if he was healthy, would have been the starter at this nose tackle position anyway. So I don't think we're really missing out too much here. And like you said, with Ware Hudson, Brandon Dorlus, like you're gonna get a nice rush. Nothing special on the pass rushing side of the ball, kind of like last year. I think they're gonna be a lot like they were last year, where like they're gonna get hurries a lot. I don't see a lot of sack production out of this group. That's not really the Mint defense. It doesn't really lend to sacks all that well, especially from the D line. The D line is largely there to clog and just be like bruisers up front and penetrate and stuff like that. I think they'll be pretty good, this defensive line. Here's the thing. I'm just going to put this out here now. Don't freak out if teams seem to be able to run the ball pretty well against Oregon. A 3-man front is very, very, very hard to stop the run on. The linebackers, we'll get to them in a minute, are very important in this system. But just like if the D linemen aren't getting run-stopping tackles, don't freak out. It's part of the system. Like I said, it's one of those things.
There's going to be a lot of freaking out.
It's one of those things where I have so much respect for these D linemen, because they're going to get no glory or not a lot of glory, and they're going to be like kind of one of the linchpins of the defense here. So
yeah, agreed.
It's weird that I had thoughts about D line, isn't it?
No, not weird at all. Let's move on to that linebacker group. A lot of notes here because, as you said, in a Dan Lanning system, this is the core group that needs to be on it at all times.
This is the most important position in mint defenses.
Yep. It's weird to say, but I think this group's probably going to be stronger than they were last year, even after losing Noah Sewell and Justin Flo.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say because Sewell is on the surface a really big loss, right? It sucks to have a guy who is so talented and so good at the game of football to leave. However, we alluded to this a couple times. He felt a bit like the square peg round hole, and I think the people he's got coming in and the people who are going to be starting this year fit the scheme a whole lot better.
I agree.
They brought in Jordan Birch from South Carolina, who from all we haven't found much on the fall camp, but from spring camp, basically he was a 5-star coming out of high school, and he's showing all of it right now. They got Justin Jacobs, who was a top tier, like the number one linebacker in that unbelievably nasty Iowa defense from last year. And then you got Funa and Basa coming back, and both of those guys were fantastic last year.
Yep.
And then on top of that, this is like one of my favorite players coming in. One guy I'm like really, really excited about is Devin Jackson. He's projected like 3rd on the depth chart at will, but he's like 6'3", 220 pounds, and runs like a 4.2 40. The dude
he's
is
a
so
redshirt
intense.
freshman.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm really excited to see if he can make a difference, especially like being on the outside. I think he can make a really fun difference, and of course Mateo Uyangalele. We can't. This I think is. I'm gonna say it, Jamie. I think this is the best linebacker core in the Pac-12. R.I.P. Pac-12.
I have a hard time disagreeing, especially with what happened to Washington State's linebacking core and Oregon State's, which we'll get to in a minute.
It would be I think it would be different if those two units remained the same. Not much different. I really love what this group is doing,
stacked.
And there's a lot of depth. I really love what they've done with this linebacker position. I mean. Justin Jacobs,
I'm so hyped about him.
I don't think people realize,
so
if you guys remember that Iowa defense, like nobody scored a touchdown on them for like
nasty
for like 8 games or so. It was just like unbelievable, and
he was the center of that.
It was the center of it. This linebacker core is really good, and it might be the best. It could be the best linebacker core Oregon's ever had.
Which is saying something because Oregon's had some good linebacker cores, but in this system with Dan Lanning, it is extremely important, and the fact that we're this high on this group is good.
This is another group that I was coming into this research being like, I don't know about them. And then I watched film of Justin Jacobs just lighting people up. I watched Jordan Birch take it's good. It's a good core. And we obviously know like Mace Funa is insane. We know Jeffrey Bass is insane. Like, it's fine.
Good group.
They're gonna be good.
All right, DBs. This is the position of the most turnover on the team by a country mile. Quite literally, every starter on this is projected to be either a true freshman or a transfer. And that includes the nickelback, at least on the Our Lads depth chart that I see right now. I would predict that Jaleel Florence is going to be the starting nickelback, but that neither here nor there. That's not really a starter. Kyrie Jackson, Alabama transfer, cornerback, should be able to fill that hole left by Christian Gonzalez nicely. I don't think he's quite to Christian Gonzalez's
I would agree with that. Yep.
ability, but I think he's a solid piece that will minimize the damage there.
Yeah. So this room for me is going to be the reason if Oregon drops games, I see it coming out of this or injuries at the quarterback position. Not necessarily because these guys aren't like super talented, but it's really hard for freshmen especially to become good at DB, because we've talked about this before in these, is that this is such an experience dependent position.
So the good thing about that is the projected starters are all juniors or seniors.
Yeah. Like Triquezi Bridges is good. He's hit and miss. I like Brian Addison a lot. I think he's a safety, but I like him a lot. But these transfers are what's going to be what's going to help this team, right? Like it's like Kyrie, you said it, like Kyrie Jackson is a really nice pickup. And then so here's a funny thing. Like I would expect Dante Manning to take a step up in his junior year and be in the starting role.
Sure.
But right now it's projected to be Nico Reed from Colorado. Now, you the Colorado guy, tell me what you think about Nico Reed.
Nico Reed is a solid cornerback. If you're looking at the last cornerback transfer from Colorado, which was Christian Gonzalez, he's not that. But he is a solid corner. If there was statistically a guy on that defense that I would want to come over from Colorado, probably would have been him. Either that or Trevor Woods, and Trevor Woods stayed at Colorado and is going to remain a start. He may be the only starter that comes back from that team last year to Colorado. So Nico Reed is legit. Is he going to be a superstar? Probably not. Is he going to get a lot of picks? Probably not, but he is a solid cover corner.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I think this will be a fine room. I just think this is the weakness on in Oregon's football team, right? Like Evan Williams
it's definitely the group that has the most question marks.
Yeah, here's the thing is, and it's not necessarily a knock on them, because I think they're going to be fine. They're not going to be in the bottom half of the league. However, like, you have to have a prove it mentality in like a brutally efficient Pac-12 in the passing game. And I think that's just it's there probably. And I mean, in Demetrius Martin, we believe, right? Like,
yes.
In him we trust. And so I expect them to be fine. This and the O-line are the two biggest weaknesses of this team, and neither of them are going to be bad. I want to be clear on that. Neither of them will be bad.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, a lot of it too in the secondary is going to be how, like, 4 new starters, how are they going to gel and work together?
Yeah,
right? That's always the hard part without any continuity in a group, is how can they figure it out, or will they be able to figure it out?
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of a question mark there, but overall, I'd say defense is looking pretty stacked and good to go. Same with the offense. So keys to the season, we've hinted at it a few times. Bo Nix needs to stay healthy.
Yep.
And then can this defense live up to the landing hype in year 2?
That's pretty much what I said too. Almost word for word. So.
Yep. And then overall, this team's very well rounded and deep. If they can eliminate some of the costly mistakes, specifically on special teams from yesteryear, the sky's kind of the limit for this team.
Yeah, we really haven't addressed special teams almost at all in these previews, which is probably a mistake on our part. However, as special teams is like the third part of the game, it's a pretty far third part of the game.
It's also, you guys know we don't love research, and the amount of research that we've put into these previews is about maxing us out.
Well, here's the thing: is like I would be willing to do a lot more research on special teams. However, it is incredibly hard to find anything about kickers,
Unless they're returning.
Yeah, and even then, it's still you're just going off stats essentially, unless you watch them every time.
Right.
Like, because a guy who's missed 3 field goals over, if he's missed 3 in a row, but they were like inches out versus a guy who couldn't even get it there. It's still they're both 0 for 3, but one of them is clearly better. So it's really, really hard to like research special teams. And we don't have that kind of time. So
Yep. Agreed. Overall, just to round it out for Oregon, again, trying not to be a homer with all of this, but I'm very bullish on this team.
I am higher on this team now than I was 2 days ago before we did our research, which again, being an Oregon homer, like I wasn't down on this team at all, but like I am a lot higher on this team. Before this, I was basically like, yeah, they're probably like right around Washington, maybe a little bit below them, maybe a little bit above them, like kind of interchangeable teams. It's not even a question for me now. Like they're above Washington, at least on paper. Let's be real, because it is a rivalry game. I'm not calling it, but because it is a rivalry game and anything can happen on rivalry games. But on paper, this team is far superior.
Yep. Second best team in the conference, in my opinion.
I mean, if we're going purely on USC. Paper, like I almost want to put Oregon at number 1.
This is the most well-rounded team in the conference
by far.
The Caleb Williams factor is large.
Huge. Yeah, agreed.
So I'm going to not be a homer, and I'm going to put him at second. All right, let's move on to Oregon State. We'll run through this one a little quicker because obviously we're not Beaver fans, luckily.
Yeah, Oregon was really our bread and butter there, so we went a little long on that. So
yeah, so this one will be a little shorter. Recap of 2022. Great season for Oregon State, historic one for them. 10-win season. Finished 5th in the pack at 10-3, 6-3 in conference. Best win was Oregon, obviously. Worst loss was Washington, not because it was a bad loss, but because they had that game was won, and they totally blew it.
Yep.
And so here's the other thing about Washington last year is I think they got lucky more times than not. Not more times than not. They got lucky a few times that should have knocked them down a peg or two. And I just don't see that luck continuing. So that's
a total aside from Jamie.
Also fuck them. In terms of statistically, this was a defensive heavy team, as you're going to see. Offense was 6th in scoring, 7th in total yards, 11th in passing yards, 4th in rushing yards, 6th in third down percentage, 8th in red zone touchdown percentage. Not a great offense. Not a terrible offense, but not great. The defense, however, was 1st in points per game allowed, 1st in rushing and total yards allowed, 3rd in passing yards allowed, 1st in rushing yards allowed, tied for 3rd in picks, tied for 7th in fumble recoveries, 7th in sacks, tied for 5th in defensive touchdowns.
I mean, you should have known that. If you watched the USC Oregon State game, you would have known that defense was fucking cracked.
Nasty. They were nasty.
That is far and away. So, as an Oregon guy, grew up an Oregon guy, which means you follow Oregon State pretty closely still as well. That is far and away the best defense I've ever seen played out of Corvallis. It's not even close, truly. Chris Burkhart might have something to say against that because he was a homer for Oregon State for a while. But I like last year to hold that USC offense like they did is unbelievable. That was such a titan feat. I mean, and they were good all season long. They were so consistent. everywhere around. So
Hats off to that defense.
best defense out of
Insanely
Corvallis
good.
I think I've ever seen.
Yep. Offense on the other side was rough, especially passing. The combo of Ben Goldbranson, Chance Nolan, Tristan Gebbia just didn't cut it.
No,
Um,
no, it didn't.
But that being said, they do have DJ Uiagalelei coming in, which we'll get to that in a minute. So we'll see if that's going to solve their problems or not. Jonathan Smith, can't say enough good things about that guy.
So he's such a good coach. I just wish he was
He's
coaching somewhere else.
Incredible coach. Yeah, I wish he went somewhere else, and I wish he was coaching somewhere else.
Yeah.
But just he's building the program the right way, the only way you can do it in Corvallis, from the bottom up and keeping guys, and it's just.
I mean, you saw it like last year. All those guys were seniors.
Yep.
Like
The
spoiler
continuity
alert,
was-
all those guys were seniors.
Yeah. So watch out, Oregon State fans. This might turn rougher for while we were a little lower on Oregon and we grew into our opinions of Oregon, my opinion of Oregon State went the exact opposite way.
Yeah, I was very high on Oregon State coming into the season, and we're taking a step back from that. But
So
we digress.
let's go to the key returning and departing players. Key leaving players, you got Luke Musgrave on offense, tight end. He went to the Packers in the second round. He was basically the entire passing offense.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, the wide receivers might have had more yards, but that was pure coincidence.
Well, if there was a wide receiver that added more yards, it was Trayshawn Harrison, and he's also gone
Yes.
to the Titans. He was the
and with
receiving
John
leader.
Lindsay as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a whole lot of yards, so he didn't even make my list. There just wasn't a lot of offense going on.
They didn't pass the ball all that much.
Nope. On defense, this is where it's going to start to sting really bad. Omar Spates, linebacker, transferred to LSU, leading tackler. This guy's going to be playing on Sundays.
Yes, he is.
He was
so good.
the heart and soul of that defense, and he transferred.
That's a
So
sad
that's a
transfer
big-
for Oregon State.
That is a big loss. Kyrie Fisher Morris was the third leading tackler. He is also gone. They had 9 guys who were 4 or 5 year starters. They didn't necessarily start all of their games with OSU, but 9 of the 11 starters were 4th or 5th year guys. And of that, they lost 1,600 career tackles.
16 hundo for the career. Like that is so much experience. Like losing that is
Just gone.
Oof. It's a lot of
That
a
is
lot of upperclassmen, boys and girls.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Oregon's transfers. You're not losing a lot of production. You're losing big names. These weren't all transfers. They were all senior guys, but you were losing a lot of production from that starting group. So that's tough. Key returning guys on offense. You are returning both of your your top 2 starting running backs, Damian Martinez and Jashawn Fenwick. Both are certified studs. They're very running back room is not a problem in Corvallis. And then they are also returning Jack Velling, who was technically the leading receiving tight end last year, but definitely not talent-wise. Luke Musgrave was leaps and bounds above him. On defense, Ketan Oladipo was the second leading tackler. He is back. And then Ryan Cooper Jr. was tied for the most picks. He is also back. So not losing everything, but you're losing most of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of loss there.
Recruiting class, this is where it's also going to sting pretty much always in Corvallis. 52nd overall, 10th in the pack. High school recruits, 49th overall, 10th in the pack. Transfers, 57th overall, 10th in the pack. It's not great.
Never do they recruit well to
Yeah,
Corvallis.
I would have hoped that they could have done better, and maybe not hoped. I don't wish them well really at all, but their transfers probably could have been a little better.
Yeah,
but
I just Jonathan Smith is not that guy.
He's a build it from the
He's a
bottom up.
he is 100% a
developer.
developer. So
He's a developer. All right, let's get into the position by position previews. Let's start with the O-line.
O-line. So largely this unit remains the same. They lost Brandon Kipper at right guard, but he was kind of injured on and off last season. So I expect this group to be really good. They were really good last year. They were brawlers, bruisers. They were far and away the best run blocking offensive line in the Pac-12 last year. And that's saying something with how high I was on Oregon's offensive line last year. But like, this team was great. Their offensive line coach is a developing master. He could run master classes on developing offensive line talent. I mean, most of these guys were like low 3-star offensive linemen,
yep.
and they are an incredible unit. And
they
so
beat up Florida in the Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, I think this group is This is where Oregon State excels. Is this offensive line? They're deep. They're I like. It's hard to say that they're like super talented, because like on paper the talent necessarily isn't there, but they're like such a cohesive group and they're developed so well. It's a really strong group.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have much to add, as I usually don't with the O-line.
It's okay. I have
much to
enough
add.
thoughts for the both of us.
That's very true.
It's almost like
very,
I know a
very
lot
true.
about O-line. I think I talked about this last week, but when there was that TikTok of the Kelsey brothers and Jason Kelsey talking about how lineup doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's true.
Let's get to stuff that I do know more about.
All
That's
right.
quarterback room. Obviously, DJ Uiagalelei, the big star transfer coming in from Clemson, was supposed to be the knight in shining armor that was going to save Beaver football in Corvallis. I am curbing my enthusiasm on DJ. Reports out of camp is that it's not as good as they were hoping it was going to be. Completion percentage is looking to be similar as to what it was at Clemson. That being said, he is going to be much better coached than he was at Clemson with Jonathan Smith. Should have his best season. Other downside for him is he has basically no receiving threats, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much on the same. I was really high on DJ coming into the season, but then I kind of looked a little deeper, and really, like, statistically, he was really mid at Clemson. Again, like you said, Tony Elliott is a shade of the quarterback's coach that Jonathan Smith is. So I think DJ is going to have his best season. I mean, his talent is there. His upside is there. It's just it wasn't clicking. But it's not going to be as much of a difference maker as I thought. He's behind a better offensive line. They're not as good at pass blocking as you would probably hope. But with how good the run game is going to be, I would expect the passing game to have a lot less pressure on it. So I expect him to have a statistically better season, but like so far, like his numbers are pretty comparable to like Ben Gulbranson, who was not very good last year. So I have hope for DJ. I just don't think, like you said, he's not the kind of savior that I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Move on, and behind him, there's a whole lot of not a lot.
Oh yeah, depth is horrible. I mean, it's Gulbranson, it's Gebbia, I don't even remember the other.
There's a freshman that's getting some hype, and I'm totally spacing his name right now. Let's see if I can find it here real quick.
Aiden Chiles.
Yep. He's getting some really good hype from the staff. I don't think he's going to be ready this year. It's more of a again, we're talking about this staff they're going to develop. So they're kind of looking down the road. So yeah, depth is going to be a problem in that room if DJ goes down. Running back room, stacked room, not as stacked as Oregon, but again, the top two guys we touched on that are returning, Damian Martinez and Deshaun Fenwick, solid backs, should have no problems here.
Yeah, like Damian Martinez is a certified baller, dude. He's so fucking good. All us Oregon fans are very aware of how good he is.
Way too aware.
They did lose fan favorite Jack Coletto, who is like a unicorn on the football field, and could play literally anywhere. I mean, he's backup linebacker. He was fullback. He was their H-back. He's just kind of he's tight end at times. While I think fan favorite wise, it sucks that you're losing Coletto here. I don't really think that they're losing that much because a lot of Coletto was designed. A lot of his season was around plays that were gadget plays designed for Jack Coletto or just hard runs up the middle. Right. And so I don't think they're going to be missing all of that much without him, aside from a little bit of fun, I think. And Damian Martinez is good enough to carry a room without Coletto. So that's where we're at there.
Yep. Wide receiver room, on the other hand, is not good at all. They lost almost all of their production, which isn't saying a lot, and they didn't really replace it.
Yeah. So
I don't think they have a single real downfield threat.
They have
one receiver close to 6 feet.
He is either 6 feet or 6'1", depending on or 6'2", depending on the service. If you go by Oregon State's measure, he is 6'2". If you go by 24/7 Sports, he is 6 feet. So we don't really know.
So he was wearing
here.
Cleats,
but he is the only one above 5'11" in the entire wide receiver room.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's not great for a D1 room. And height's not everything. I mean, Jaquiz Rogers showed us that back in the day. You can be a really effective wide receiver, but they're also not crazy fast either. This is the worst room they have, I think, on this team.
This is one of the worst wide receiver rooms in Pac-12.
Yeah, it's a really poor room. They're returning no experience. They didn't really bring in a transfer that is gonna make a difference. I mean, they brought in Jamal East, but I really don't see him doing anything. So it's a bad room. It's a bad room. Oregon State fans, don't expect a lot out of your passing game. Which
really sucks.
They're all
hyped about DJ.
Yeah, the running game is going to be slick, though.
Yep. Tight end room, not much to talk about. Losing Musgrave's a massive blow.
Yep.
Velling's okay.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, yeah. The rest of again, it's like this wide receivers, like the passing game was like nothing last year. They barely used it. They use the passing game to set up the running game, and that is it. So really, there's just not a whole lot that you got to care about here. It's going to be a backslide in this room, with Luke Musgrave leaving. But there wasn't a whole lot of receiving threat here. And the guys who are still there are good run blockers, which is what you should be focusing on anyway.
Yep. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Start with the D-line. If there's one thing Oregon State's going to be good at this year, it's in the trenches on both sides of the ball. D-line, a lot of depth. Shouldn't have any issues with this unit. It's not going to blow your doors off, but it's going to be solid.
Yeah, so they lost Sandberg, which is a pretty big blow in the middle. But they've had a lot of depth here, and they continue to get a lot of depth here. Again, kind of like you said, nobody's insane, right? But they're good and they're well coached. And so I would imagine that you're going to find somebody to be able to plug up that interior line. and fill those holes there. And on the edge, they returned Lolo Hea and Chatfield. And last year, Oregon State ran like an edge rotation. I think like 4 or 6 guys. And they returned these 2, and they lost 2 other guys out of the solid rotation. So I just expect these guys to play more than they did last year. They're solid. I mean, they're nothing that's going to win you games, but they're not going to lose you games either. They're going to be fine.
Yep. Linebackers.
Oof. This is
Not good.
one of the biggest backslides maybe in the conference. Like you said earlier, like losing Omar Spates and Fisher Morris and Jack Coletto as their backup. That's rough. And the only guy they got was Calvin Hart, who's an Illinois transfer. But he's got some experience, but he is wickedly injury prone. This linebacker room went from being the linchpin of this defense to being an absolute liability between year to year.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The only note that I have in here is this room could actually literally be the downfall of this team.
It could. This is, I mean, they got to have some guys step the fuck up.
Yeah, that haven't shown anything previously.
Yep.
Like you really need some. If you're talking about development, they got their hands full in that linebacker room because, on paper, it's not looking pretty.
It is not.
Defensive backs not looking a whole lot prettier. Maybe it's slightly better than the linebacker room, but it's not good.
Yeah, like just the fact that Oladapo is the real, like their only real returner, that's pretty concerning. Especially considering last year, like this room, especially the cornerbacks, were fucking elite.
Yep,
they were so fucking good. Now they bring back Oladapo, and his experience is good. And they also bring back like a pretty prominent backup in Akili Arnold. So they may be able to mask some of the problems with the cornerbacks, but this cornerback room is bad. I mean, there's just really no other way to, like, I can't put this like necessarily politely. This cornerback room is not good, and man, it's just really unfortunate because I think the defensive line is going to be good. Everyone else is this defense is going to. I mean, they were like what, first, second in most stats last year, and we touched on this like at the preview. Is like the reason they were so successful last year is because they had a lot of guys who had been on this team for a lot of years and played really well and had 4 years of incredible coaching. And now all those guys are gone, and they really didn't do much during those years to bring in the talent necessary to keep that lineage going.
I mean, on paper, you've got a redshirt senior, redshirt junior transfer as your starting DBs, but these are guys that haven't seen the field
at all.
Yeah, it's
maybe a little, but it's. Again, here's the thing: this is a very well coached team. So while we're saying this is like a bad room, like it doesn't mean they're gonna like absolutely crumble.
Step up.
They could all be good. They could be well coached, and that they could end up being a great unit. But as it stands right now, it looks really bleak, like really bleak.
Yeah, this got scarier and scarier as we went through the
God.
preview.
Yeah, it did.
It was this total opposite of the Oregon effect. This was a steep decline for me.
Yep.
So keys to the season: DJ needs to somehow find some magic. But it's going to be tough sledding with that wide receiving core.
My key is embracing the run game and using it to keep the opposing defense on the field. Keep the opposing offense off the field. The old Stanford model.
Yep.
Of just like, there's been 5 drives this entire game.
Yep.
Like, just
and we're
something
gonna
like
beat
that.
You 13-10.
Yeah, we're going to beat you. Exactly. That's exactly what they need to do.
Yep. And that's going to be hard to do with the holes on the defense, especially the
I
back eight.
Overall, I'm expecting this team to take a pretty big backslide. But again, Jonathan Smith is such a fantastic coach. It's really hard to bet against him still. And they were really good last year, and they upgraded at a few positions, but this defense is going to take such a hard backslide that it's really hard to see them capturing the magic that they got last year.
I completely agree with that. I still have them as a top half team in the pack.
For sure.
So we're talking all down on them, but I still think they're top half. It's just not going to be the 10-win season we saw last year.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, if they adopt that's those Stanford teams were awesome. They were so fucking good. But they just ran the ball all the time. Like when Christian McCaffrey was there, when Bryce Love was there, when Toby Gerhart was there, they just beat you the fuck up. We saw it last year in the Civil War game. What did they do to Oregon that won that game? All they did was run the ball. They attempted 0 passes.
Yep.
And all they did was just keep on the field and just up the middle. And it worked. And that's just what they got to do all year. And it's going to be ugly. It's going to be real ugly. But I think they're going to win good games still.
They will. It's just going to be ugly, like you said.
Yeah.
All right. Final preseason Pac-12 rankings. Here we go. We've done all of our previews. We're ready to go. This is just the power rankings. This is not final. We haven't gone through the schedules and seen. I haven't even gone through each of these teams' schedules. So this is just based on our previews, how we see this conference stacking up. What are your rankings?
I don't have them written down, and they're the same as. Well, no, you do yours first.
They were a little different.
And then I'll tell you what mine were.
My final preseason Pac-12 rankings. Before we dive into schedules, which I think we're doing next week, we haven't really talked about that yet.
Yeah.
I have USC, Oregon, Washington, Utah, Oregon State, UCLA, and then I'm going to cheat here and put tied for 7th, Colorado, Cal, and Arizona, because I have no fucking clue how to rank those three. And then Washington State, Arizona State, and Stanford to close it out.
Yeah, so the tiers of that I definitely agree with, right? That Arizona, Cal, Colorado 3, like we've kind of said a couple times, it's kind of all over the joint. I lean Cal to be at the top of those 3. I'm kind of leaning Arizona to be the bottom of those 3. But yeah, the kind of what you said, it's just cheating a little bit, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You're kind of tying.
This is our
7th.
show. We
can
do whatever.
We can do what the fuck we want. What are we even saying? What are we even saying, dude? We can just be like, hey, fuck you guys. Everybody wins.
To me, this is very clearly a 3 or 4 tier of 3-team conference.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's Oregon, USC, and Washington at the top. It's Utah, Oregon State, and UCLA second. Then it's that Colorado, Cal, Arizona tier, and then rounding it out, we got Washington State, Arizona State, and Stanford.
Yeah, dead on. I can't wait for this to go exactly as we've planned.
This is going to be – it's not going to be the final standings because Oregon's going to be on top. But
yeah,
just flip those 2, USC and Oregon, and this is going to be what it is.
I'm excited for it.
And it will actually be a tie for 7th. Colorado, Cal, and Arizona are going to tie for 7th, and we are going to be 100%.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first, kiddos. You heard it here first.
So that is that. Next week, we're going to run through – quickly just kind of run through our Pac-12 full preview. We'll go through each team's kind of schedule and see where we project them to be, much like we did last year. And that is going to lead us right into week 0, which is next week.
Oh, my God, it's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening. I'm so excited. I need it now.
And then before week 1, we're going to do a show live from Eli's apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, not next Thursday, but the Thursday after, I think.
And we will actually be previewing football games. Because the only Pac-12 game there is to preview week 0 is
USC.
USC and who is it? Who are they playing? San Jose State.
Doesn't matter.
I think.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You're right.
Somebody they're going to beat.
Well, we'll
alert.
preview it because we're going to tell you who we think is going to win that game next week. But yeah, we'll do our full first week 1 preview after that, and then we're off to the races. It is time for college football.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. It's here. It is here.
Uh,
All right. Eli, I think it's your buzzer beater. If it's not, I'm handing it to you anyway.
Okay.
Listener and viewer, thank you for hanging out with us and listening to our hot takes on Oregon and Oregon State and realignment and all those good things. We love you. Like, share, comment, tell your friends, tell your mom and dad to come listen to us because we're awesome. Zeta June, thank you for letting us use your music for our outro. Super producer Cameron, thank you for your early commentary, and then you just kind of shut up for the rest of the episode.
I like it.
I let you guys do sports. I do other things.
There you go.
You didn't steal my thunder that many times, so I'm happy with it.
I'm sure I'm forgetting to thank somebody, but we love you all. We'll see you next week for a full Pac-12 preview, and then we are off to the races in college football. Until then, Eli, please take us away.
My buzzer beater this week is I don't give a fuck I'm being a homer. Ducks on top, baby. Ducks on top.
Deuces.